you are hearing this transmission, please note that we cannot broadcast the signal for very long because they are coming. They will do whatever it takes to stop us. You must listen to us. We need to go on. And Thorn is coming. If you do not gather what you can at the moment, Thorn will take over the world as they tried to do with Stonehenge. Please listen to us. Gather your resources. We cannot afford to stop this. Thorn is coming. Within 1 year, Thorn will be here.
Remember to click like, subscribe, the bell notification, and whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support us. Welcome to Halloween night. And as I had promised earlier today, I have a treat for you since I have already given you a trick. And what is that treat, you ask? Well, let's see here. I have my little bag. Ah, yes. It is what I promised you back at the beginning of the month, and that is Halloween 2. In 1978, Halloween became the highest grossing independent film of all time. Despite this, Carpenter moved on to do other projects as he accomplished what he set out to do with Halloween. Nevertheless, Mustafa Akkad and Irwin Yablans wanted a sequel, as did Universal and King Kong remake producer Dino De Laurentiis, who joined on early in production, but Carpenter turned it down, stating he didn't want to remake the film. This in turn led to newcomer Rick Rosenthal being offered the directorial role as even Halloween's art director. Tommy Lee Wallace declined the job. The original idea was to have the movie take place several years with Michael tracking Laurie down in an apartment complex, but that was soon changed to a hospital just mere minutes after Michael's initial attack. There was even talk of shooting this movie in 3D, but as Alucard said in my Friday the 13th review,
"That's a stupid fucking gimmick and everyone knows it."
Exactly. On to more of the night he came home. So Halloween 2 kicks off with showing us the ending to the original, except that Loomis shoots Michael 7 times and he falls off a different balcony. The end result is still the same though, as Michael has disappeared, leaving Loomis in a panic while an angry neighbor steps out of his home.
What's going on out here? Is this some kind of joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight.
You don't know what death is.
Michael sneaks around the Haddonfield alleyways, stealing a knife from an elderly couple, and then killing some random girl because necessary body count. In the meantime, Laurie is carted off to the emptiest hospital in America, Haddonfield Medical. We are introduced to EMTs Jimmy and Bud, played by Lance Guest and Leo Rossi. Sadly, unlike the original, there's no reason to get attached to these characters as they are only here to die. Loomis and Sheriff Brackett continue their search for Michael, which leads them to a similar looking figure walking away from them until he goes out in a blaze of glory. From there, Brackett learns that Annie is one of Michael's victims and decides he wants out of this film, so he goes off to tell his wife.
I have to go and tell my wife before somebody else does.
I can't stop until I'm certain it's dead.
Hold on a minute. Is Loomis seriously referring to Michael as a he now? That is the exact opposite to what he did in the last movie.
He was my patient for 15 years. It became an obsession with me until I realized that there was nothing within him, neither conscience nor reason, that wasn't even remotely human.
Oh, man. Oh, by the way, check this guy out right here.
I want to concentrate on the house. talk to some kids, see if anybody saw anything.
Did you know that that is Dana Carvey?
Party on, Wayne!
Michael learns of Laurie's location thanks to a news report and heads to the hospital.
Let the slaughter begin!
Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one gone, and another one gone. Another one bites the dust. Hey.
Between death scenes, though, we get Jimmy informing Laurie about Michael.
He was the guy that was after you.
The little kid who killed his sister. He's in a hospital somewhere.
He escaped last night.
Why me?
Loomis and one of the cops learning that the Burning Man is not Michael, and some kids come up to them during a riot at the Myers house to tell them their friend is missing.
Yeah, I'm worried about Bennett Tramer.
He isn't home yet.
Yeah, and he left the party at 10.
Ben Tramer. That name sounds vaguely familiar, but from where?
I'd rather go with Ben Tramer.
I just talked with Ben Tramer and he got real excited when I told him how attracted you were to him.
Oh, now he can really be Laurie's crush. Sorry. The search for Michael continues on until Loomis is picked up by a Marshal and Marion, the inexperienced nurse from the opening of the previous movie who now seems to be a total expert on Michael.
Dr. Rogers is just afraid this could jeopardize our whole rehabilitation program.
Tell him you couldn't find me. Tell him anything. I can't leave Haddonfield now.
I'm afraid you don't have a choice. There's a marshal waiting for you outside.
Man, the new job learning curve was so much quicker in the 70s. At the same time, Jimmy finds Laurie unresponsive and goes off to find his boss, Miss Elrond, finding her corpse instead, and he slips on her blood. Nurse Ima tries to leave only to discover her car is no longer working. She realizes that all the cars in the parking lot have been sabotaged and heads back into the hospital, only to die as Michael finds Laurie. Laurie limps away from Michael, barely escaping from his slow stroll. Hey, wait a minute. Shouldn't the doors on the elevator open up because his hand was in there? She gets into the parking lot and hops into a car, which just happens to belong to Jimmy. Jimmy,
We're gonna get out of here. I think,
dies? Mary informs the truth about Michael to Loomis.
That Strode girl, that's Michael Myers' sister.
He killed one sister 15 years ago. Now he's trying to kill the other.
Loomis forces the marshal to turn around.
What does you fellas usually do? Fire a warning shot, right?
They reach the hospital and begin their search for Michael. Laurie unsuccessfully tries to scream for help. Well, that's not really surprising given how many horror movies she's been in since Halloween. She's probably kind of screamed out. She manages to get back into the hospital thanks to Loomis and friends. Michael just walks right through the glass door as if it were paper and is shot. The marshal dies by stupidity. Loomis and Laurie run into an operating room with no escape. Michael breaks into the room, stabbing Loomis with a scalpel.
Here's Johnny!
Laurie uses Loomis's gun to shoot Michael in the eyes, which seems to have no effect on him. Loomis releases some gas from a tank in the room and Laurie follows suit.
it's time, Michael.
Let's have a moment of silence for Michael and Loomis, as they were taken away from us for way too... Wait. Oh yeah. Never mind. Laurie is taken away to fight another day. Thus closing out the second installment of the Halloween franchise. Halloween was such a great masterpiece that there really was no way Halloween 2 could live up to it. Having the movie begin right where the original left off was a great idea, as it makes the two feel like they could be one long adventure. In fact, this was the first time since Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein that a movie sequel was followed directly after the original. When looking at the film in that retrospect, it is pretty solid. Unfortunately, there are a lot of nitpicks that make that impossible to do. To start, Laurie's hair in this follow-up is a wig, and it looks pretty awful in a fully lit room. It doesn't exactly match her hair in the original. Another negative in this sequel comes down to its characters. None of them serve any purpose to the story, and they are there just to die. The first movie kept the cast down to a bare minimum and got you to like them through their realistic personalities and dialogue. Laurie, Annie, and Linda came across as real friends who will tease and insult each other, just like real friends do. Everything about them made them feel and act like people. Here, we get none of that. These characters are just set pieces and play off their characters as such, and their dialogue comes off as cold and unnatural at times. It also doesn't help that none of them actually live through the night. In fact, the body count in this movie is huge compared to its predecessor. Halloween killed off 4 or 5 people at the most, while this one has a body count that is twice that amount. That just goes to show how the filmmakers were more concerned about copying the Friday the 13th franchise rather than trying to make something inventive like the original classic was. Loomis is truly what makes this movie work, as Pleasance retains his pleasant persona. He is the one actor here that is giving it his all, as he truly cares about the quality of his work. That is a rarity these days in horror sequels. Even Jamie Lee Curtis comes across as phoning it in at times, although not to the same extent as a few of the other movie's actors.
Sorry. I guess I just fuck up all the time.
I also will say that I do not like the idea of Laurie being Michael's sister, as it humanizes his motives from the previous movie. It was much scarier when he was coming after her for stepping on his property. A different actor by the name of Dick Warlock donned the persona of Michael this time around. He claims they used the same mask as the original, but you wouldn't believe it based on how it looks. The mask just looks off compared to the first film, especially the hair. Frankly, I see no reason for him to lie, and the different appearance could be due to time. The effects-ridden death scenes are quite good, even if there is nothing exciting about them. The heated jacuzzi scene could be a little much for the faint of heart, but it is mild compared to today's torture porn. My favorite death scene goes to the nurse who gets a knife to the back and her shoes slip off when she kicks. The scene at the end when Michael comes out burning is also really well done. It is funny to look at how much thicker his hands have gotten, but the end result as a whole is executed to precise precision. Finally, John Carpenter worked on the score with his most recent cohort, Alan Howard, and together they provide a truly top-notch, chilling score. The music alone can drive this movie and allows one to overlook its flaws. Of course, the updated opening theme is just as striking as the original. As is the track when Laurie is being chased by Michael throughout the hospital basement. Overall, Halloween 2 is like a haunted house. You move from one room to another, continue moving, a scare occurs, you enjoy it, then you move on to the next room. It's as simple as that. That is exactly what this movie is like. It is far more intelligent than all of the other sequels out there, or at least a lot of them. And if you have seen the original movie, you should definitely check this one out, as it is harmless entertainment. Sure, the characters are not all that great, and as I said, a lot of them are there to die, but it's still an enjoyable piece nonetheless, especially thanks to its score. Wow. Well, it is time to bring this year's Halloween month to a close. This went by fast. With that said, I hope you enjoy your treats and watch out for razor blades.
Just put it up there real gently. You okay? Let's go. Just walk real slow. Come on.
Until next time, bye.
He was real drunk.